Welcome to Crones and Coffee with Lori and Kate, a podcast about spirituality, real, raw, and authentic, and lots of laughs.
Hello.
Hello, it's Lori and Kate with our second podcast.
Number 2.
Woo! Look at us, number 2.
Number 2.
Today's topic, we're going to talk about modern witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun! Modern witchcraft. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I was just thinking that. Are we talking about, so many ways we could define it. Are we talking about a modern approach to witchcraft? Is witchcraft any different from when it was years ago? Or is it somewhere in the middle where we're kind of in a transitional phase right now? I'll tell you what. Do you want to know what I witnessed? I witnessed a huge surge of popularity in witchcraft when all the lockdowns happened.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed online, the height of TikTok was just gaining traction.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of content creators were getting online with witchcraft and tarot readings and spells. And holy moly, I have never seen, at least in my lifetime, so much focus on growing a community on and around witchcraft than I did in 2019 to 2020. It was this huge boom. And I noticed it because I had my shop in 2017, 2018. But I started getting more foot traffic, more interest, and more social media awareness when the lockdowns happened.
Yeah.
I think that's been my perception of modern witchcraft anyway.
I have to agree with that because I think people were looking for ways to cope. Mm-hmm. I really do.
And I also think people now had capabilities, as much as most of us probably can't stand platforms like TikTok, we also have to acknowledge their power and influence on how we communicate and the information we put out there. So being able to, and us pagans love glitter and sparkle and effects. And TikTok was just another magical tool.
Exactly.
To use to get your, so many different things that people did to create a spell or to immersion, ASMR.
Yeah.
You could do a spell. Someone's looking you right in the face on a screen, and it was just very, very noticeable to me.
Yeah.
How much the technology over the past 5 years has impacted witchcraft.
Absolutely. Which, of course, with anything, right? There's negatives, right? Mm-hmm. So of course I saw a lot of bickering on
gatekeeping.
On witch talk. Don't go down that rabbit hole, by the way, okay?
Is that a platform?
Oh, witch talk is probably
toxic.
It's so toxic. Everybody's telling everybody else what to do and how to do it and why you shouldn't do it and yada yada yada.
Forum? Do you mind if I get
it's a hashtag.
Okay.
So if you use the word witch talk, you go down this rabbit hole.
I never knew that.
Don't. Trust me, you don't want the drama.
Isn't it funny how some of these words that we're using, hashtag witch talk, it sounds magical. It sounds like we're now using magical lingo in the real world where it's actually relevant.
Yeah.
We're don't use this word because it will actually curse you.
Right. There are good things on witch talk. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I've learned a lot.
You said there's a rabbit hole.
But there is a rabbit hole, and there is a lot of drama and negativity. People were getting canceled. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But where was I going with that?
Modern witchcraft.
Modern witchcraft. Thank you. I think that those type of platforms can be good, can be evil,
right.
For lack of better words. And I noticed that people were using and throwing the word around, you mentioned it too, gatekeeping.
Yes.
Right? They're gatekeeping. I don't believe in gatekeeping when it comes to online. Mm-hmm. If you're putting stuff out there online... that word is useless, okay? Mm-hmm. And the definition of gatekeeping is you are keeping guard of something and not sharing it.
Right.
There are certain parts of my practice that I gatekeep because I don't want to share it with anyone except myself. But to cry gatekeeping on a public forum, to me, is ridiculous because... Nobody's gatekeeping anything from you.
Right.
There is a vast of knowledge.
Yeah, it's taken out of context, the definition, yeah.
And people are using that word in the wrong term now. you see it with closed practices a lot too.
Well, that's just cliquey at that point.
Just
then you're just being cliquey,
That's just a whole different topic, though. The closed practices, like there's always heated discussions about whether or not you should be able to burn white sage.
Oh my God!
Because white sage is.
I know.
You
just
know,
like Palo Santo, same thing. I get it all the time.
Yeah,
Did you source this? Where did you get it from?
Yes,
How did you harvest
yes.
it? Did you ask permission? All that.
See, that to me, that's gatekeeping.
To me, it seems very pretentious and assuming.
Because it does,
Yeah.
and to me, doesn't matter how I practice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to like what we talked about in our first episode. It doesn't affect your life how I practice.
Right.
Right? It does not affect you at all how I practice. So go take your gatekeeping compliments and go in the corner.
When I hear gatekeeping too, I think more like that's a word that I've now reserved for the music industry. I'm starting to learn more and more that it's not even about talent. It's about who you know and who wants to work with you, and if they'll let you know. Like, because I feel like there's so many secrets to how to get all those streams. Like everybody, it's almost like I come across musicians who have some success, and they're my good friends. But even then, I have this sense that they're keeping things from me. Maybe I'm paranoid. It's probably that. But I also feel like, well, what is it that they're not telling me? I always have this feeling of like, well, I don't know if it necessarily pertains to spirituality in the sense that you're saying online, because all the information's out there.
I mean, a lot of information you can get, a simple Google search. It might not be right.
Right.
The information could be false, fake news, that kind of thing. But, I mean, for the most part, I think we still have libraries, yes?
Well, yeah.
So you can go get a book and do some real research instead of relying on Google too, or talk to your elders.
Right.
There's generations that have been practicing spirituality for generations. So I think, the word gatekeeping is just one of those weird
hot keywords.
It's
like psychobabble.
It's like a buzzword.
Right, there it is.
It's cool to say you're gatekeeping. Like, I don't know.
I shall not pass.
I just feel like there's no such thing as gatekeeping online, because if someone mentions something online and you say, what is that? And they're like, I'm not going to tell you. It's like, okay, well then I'm going to just research it myself.
Go ask the elder Google.
Yeah, but I'm just going to either get a book or talk to an elder. Or Google, or do all three, or talk to other, pagans in my community that I trust. But as far as gatekeeping, I think you can only gatekeep your own stuff. I share a lot of my practice because I'm teaching people. Is my way right? I don't know, but it's
your
right.
rendition.
It's
your
right
version.
for me.
Yeah.
Right. It's right for me. I teach people what I know and what I do, and I always tell people, take what resonates, leave behind what doesn't. So some people will take the base of my ritual, and then they'll message me and they're like, can I add this? I'm like, it's yours now. Do whatever you want with it. And I think people have to learn, especially in today's world, right? We want instant gratification, right? And people are always like, well, should I do this? There's a lot of self-doubt in people, especially with this community. Because I see all the time online, can I do this? Stop asking permission.
Yeah, that's so weird to me, too.
But it's like they're afraid, though, that if they do that, something's going to blow up.
Right.
Or they're going to be cursed. Or, if you're going into this and
good intentions.
Your intentions are, I want to protect my home, and you used rosemary instead of salt or whatever, you're not going to blow up your house. The house is not going to hate you.
Sometimes you got to adapt with the tools that you have. So sometimes you can actually find the symbolism you're looking for in an alternative.
Right.
Which I have found. Maybe the color, it doesn't have to be so in depth. It could just be the color, the shape of the leaf.
It's make it yours. Take what resonates. And I see a lot of people online do this, for protection of your home, which that's all well and good, right? But converse with the spirit of your house, and you don't need to do all the other stuff. If you make friends with the spirit of your home, your spirit of your house will protect your house. But I mean, the other stuff is just extra extra fluff, extra defense.
Yeah, right.
But if you,
So it gives you peace of mind.
it does, and people are probably like, "What is that? Spirit of the house?" Research it. You'll be amazed.
Isn't that funny? When I moved into my cabin, I never felt more connected to a house than I did this one. It is the most slapped together, ramshackle house that was built by a bunch of hippies in the 70s. There's no sense to it. It's not insulated. But I've always told my husband, I'm like, this is a living thing. This is like another pet. We have to take care of it. We have to maintain it. I have to, it's...
Nourish it.
Yeah, so I really took to that when you said that, because I've lived in suburbs, I've lived in apartments, but this house is different. This house has got its own vibe.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And to go back to, modern witches, I see online too, a lot of people say intention is everything. I actually don't believe that.
Yeah, you made a post recently about positivity, and I do grasp onto the concept of toxic positivity. I think that can definitely be a thing. People...
And I don't.
You don't wait. Okay, let me hear what you have to say.
I don't think that there is any such thing as toxic positivity.
All right, let's hear it.
Because you can't be positive and toxic at the same time.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. Eyes.
It kind of contradicts each other, right?
It does, because, and I know what you mean by the toxic positivity, but I don't think people are going into that saying things to be toxic. I think they don't know what to say, so they're trying to find words to provide comfort or support, which now people are like, well, that's toxic positivity. It's like, it's not, because that's how you perceived it.
Well, their intention is still in a good place.
Because their intent, exactly. Right. And if their intention is not in a good place or not.
It's almost like what we were just saying, like, I'll pray for you. It's like, really? Or are you just being condescending?
So that's you taking your own perception of what that person said, but not what they actually meant. Right? Does that make sense?
Did you write an article on it, or did you share an article?
Yeah,
I just didn't have time to read it, but I saw it go through, and I was like, ooh, that's because I hear it a lot, toxic. It's another buzzword, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is, because, you can't be toxic and positive at the same time. You can't.
Unless you're Britney Spears.
Well,
she puts on a hell of a performance.
I guess. I think she's just a troubled...
that you're toxic. Sorry, this is a little tangent there.
I think she's just a troubled soul.
Poor thing.
And,
bless her heart.
Bless her heart. We'll pray for her. No.
Jesus wept.
Jesus wept. Oh my gosh.
Modern witch.
Modern witch.
What else could that mean? Obviously, we went straight to online. But
but I think that's like where our lives are, right?
That's where all the covens are. I remember when I was just starting out with my own little group of girlfriends, it was actually very secretive. It was a very secretive thing that we were doing, and we made it that way. We weren't any under pressure. Well, actually, that's not true. My girlfriend's parents would have been upset about her participating, so we kind of had to keep it under the radar for her.
Yeah.
And to think that you could go online and tell everybody what you're doing and share your quote recipes and spells that was like, I think there's so much. We spent centuries of protecting and hiding witches, and women are getting burned at the stake, men are getting burned at the stake, for making soup,
exactly.
Not everybody was so open about it. Now we're in an era where it's like, not, in fact, it's not just exposed, but it's celebrated. It's highly exploited, exploited for marketed products and snake oil salesmen, and that's a whole nother topic of the fake shamans out there and the people that wanted. There's a lot more room for scammers.
Yeah.
But more people are willing to share their light. More people are willing to share their practice, which is also new to me.
Right.
The last 20 years.
Right.
I've seen that. And accessibility, like you're saying, to the information, but being able to discern if it's coming, like there's some platforms I go to and I'm like, this person's just like slapping something together, making content.
Like they're doing it for clout versus what I do it for is actual spiritual practice.
Right.
Which brings me back to the whole intention thing, how people are like, intention is everything. I don't believe that. I believe it's a big part of it.
I think practice is more important than intention.
Well, I view when I practice, I do all the things. So like I bring in crystals, I bring in moon phases, I bring in days, colors, herbs, right? Because to me, intention is a big part of the ritual, the spell work. But adding those other things to it makes it more powerful. And I always, when I'm teaching, I always tell people, look at it like a cookie recipe. You can make chocolate chip cookies without the chocolate chips, but it's not going to be as good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the same with spell work. You can have the intention of your spell, but why wouldn't you add the other stuff to it to make it as most to make it powerful?
So I have like this thought of, and it kind of works into yoga practice. Like, intention's great if you can muster it up. Sometimes I can't muster the intention, but I still want to do the ritual, because doing it anyway, even if you're not, I mean, I know how important it is to be in the right space, but a part of me is also, it's a practice. It's just like yoga. Where not every yoga session I go to is going to be spiritual, and I'm going to have to, but I have to do it. I have to do it because I'm here. Yeah. I'm ready, I'm prepared, and maybe my subconscious will take over and find that intention that is supposed to be there, but I'm not feeling it. So, like, doing that hand in hand with I think practice is important.
Right.
It's like yoga, but yoga is a practice.
Exactly.
It's meditation.
Exactly.
How many people have you met like, I just can't meditate, my mind goes here, it's like, that's the point.
That's the point. Because if your mind was nothing, you'd be dead.
You have to keep doing it, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, and you know, and you surprise yourself halfway through a session, you're like, oh wow, there it is, I've uncovered it.
Right.
So yeah, I could see how.
But again, bringing the modern witch into it, because that's where I've noticed this, is it's all online. You know, like, here's the gatekeeping part. You don't need all those herbs and all the crystals and all the things. You just need your intention. Okay, if all those other things weren't important, why are there correspondences associated with each one of those things?
Right.
Like salt is got protective energies.
Like chakras. And,
tiger's eye crystal has grounding properties. If none of those things matter, why do they have these magical, metaphysical properties associated with them?
It's almost contradictory, isn't it? Like, yeah.
So to me, I mean, again, people can practice however they want. I don't care.
Right.
Because it's not my practice. But the way I practice, like, all of those things matter, because if I'm making a chocolate chip cookie, it's going to be the best damn chocolate chip cookie I ever had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the same with my spell work. Like, why wouldn't I put all the things in it to make it the most powerful, potent spell I could muster up?
Right.
And plus, me being an anxiety sufferer, and I have squirrel brain a lot of the times. I'm like, oh yeah, I was going to the kitchen. Oh wait, ooh, squirrel. I'm over here now folding the laundry, and then I see this, and by the end of the day, I'm like, I got nothing done because I did this and this and this, only partially because my brain went off. So when I do spell work, I like all the things because it gives me something to focus on and keep me in that moment. Right. Whereas for me, just having the intention isn't enough because my brain is stupid.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. At least doing the practice, going through the motions sometimes isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find later, having done the ritual, I go, it's okay, I put that to bed. I did everything I could do. Like when I called you, when I was going through one of my moments at the mill with my community, a certain member of the community was really getting under my skin, and I thought I had done everything. I'm like, Lori, I did the jar spell. I did the cord cutting. I've done it all. And if I didn't believe in it, I'm still doing it, because when I go to bed at night, I want to know, because I didn't want anything bad to happen to this person per se. Right. I knew enough about karma and energy that and deep down, I didn't want anything bad to happen. But I needed to do something about it.
Yeah. It's spiritual self-defense.
Yeah. And like I said, peace of mind, and knowing that maybe my heart wasn't in it at the time, knowing that I had done it, I could focus on my day. I'm like, I did this. The universe sees me trying really hard to do this with love in my heart and light in my heart, and that's all I can do right now. That's faith. Yeah.
And subconsciously, though, like on that level, if you're not fully buying what you're selling, it's not going to work.
Well, there's that too. That's something I struggle with.
Yeah.
I think I shared that with you about Reiki. I think I called you one day and I was like, someone's offered me Reiki, and I want to do it because I don't want to have a complete aversion to it or a superstition, but I do struggle with the concept and actually really experience. I guess you could say I've never had the experience that I'm always needing an experience. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like for energy work too, it's because it's not something most people can see.
Well, like you said, you need to be open and receptive.
You have to be open and receptive to it, just like hypnosis. If you go in there and say you're not hypnotizing me, you're not going to be hypnotized.
No, I can be hypnotized.
So if you can be hypnotized, you can receive Reiki.
Right. I have moments where I'm like, ugh. I don't know. I mean, I went to school for massage and body work, so I understand it.
Because I do Reiki.
Yeah.
So, and when I first started it, I would try to explain it to my husband, like what I was feeling. And, he is not a believer in any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, but he's very supportive. But I could see him looking at me like I was insane.
Nothing like a good skeptic.
Like, yeah. Like, he goes, really? That's what you feel? Like, how? And I'm like, I can't explain how I feel it. I just do. And sometimes, like, I see people's auras. And, people will be like, read my aura. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way for me.
Right.
Like, I have to be like, okay, I've got to clear my mind of my to-do list. Like, I have to be in the moment. But then sometimes when I'm not particularly thinking of anything and someone will walk by me, I'll go, holy crap, that woman is glowing brightly. And I've always been able to do it, and I've never really talked about it much because I get the look. Like, oh yeah, you need some medications if you're seeing things.
When I went to school for massage therapy and body work, I did a lot of physical touching of people, and I really honed in on that. And I'm wondering if that created a barrier for me subconsciously, where I'm like, if I'm not touched, because when I would touch people, I would feel all sorts of stuff.
Especially if you're empathic.
And to have that physical touch. Yeah. But then to feel things within the body that you're not seeing was something I was able to do. And I think I was so hung up on that for years that the thought of not touching someone and having those things was hard for me to conceptualize.
So for me, I do light touch Reiki. I have a very hard time just hovering over somebody. I need the connection.
Right.
So when I practice Reiki, unless I'm told not to touch them, I always ask, are you okay with a light touch? Because I need that contact.
Conduit.
I do. And if they don't want me touching them, I typically will hold a crystal above them, and that kind of helps.
So this is actually probably real helpful with modern witchery, because you could actually do remote, like Zooms, like where you're actually
distance Reiki.
Right, I hear distance Reiki a lot, which was like, wow, if you're a skeptic, wait till you hear about this.
Right.
But being able to like log on and use the modern technology that we have to be like, okay, I'm going to do distance Reiki, but I'm going to see you, and I'm going to see the room you're in.
Right.
Instead of trying to manifest in your mind, the technology's taken over and it's done that for you. So I'm going to segue into something really weird before I forget, because it keeps popping up in my mind. This isn't something I know a lot about, but it's something that ties into modern witchery, and I wonder what you think about it. So have you seen these... It's like, it's like urban folklore. And when the internet happened, there's all these, it's like the dark web. You can find all these
crazy
conspiracy theory, urban legend things. And I go there sometimes because I get bored and I just want to get weird.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing this whole facet of content. I don't know if it's content creation, if people are creating content to make it look like something it really isn't. But I've also seen rituals that people are integrating with technology and creating like really disturbing results. For example, I'm going to completely not get this right, but there was one, it was along the lines of, it's called like the blood atonement ritual, but you're doing it online, you're videoing yourself. And I don't know what this is, and I don't like to go look it up, because then your feed gets full of stuff. You start drawing this energy to you, so be careful. Right. I mean, I'm half tempted to go there to see, what the hell I'm talking about, because at one time it was right in the forefront of my brain. But people were writing things down, and there was like a witness with the camera, and then they would cut themselves. I don't want to trigger anybody. I'm sorry, trigger warning. They would cut themselves so they bled, and they would smear it on the words, say some ritualistic stuff, and then post it.
Yeah.
And by posting it, there's a participation of magic. There's this participation of intention by posting and sharing this. And there's some kind of really bad sacrificial juju that goes on if you do this. It's not typically, it's like black magic. It's like you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, dark magic.
And people are doing it online and actually integrating technology in the ritual, which is new to me too. Instead of just writing and burning it and like doing it, now there's this, this is one more step to the ritual.
Like a digital aspect to it.
It's weird, and it's weird, almost, it's actually, I can kind of buy it. If we're going to progress with our technology, if we're going to progress with our witchcraft, we're going to incorporate elements. I mean, can we just flip it and make it a good thing? Like, I don't know why we have to be cutting ourselves and shearing blood. It's very dramatic. It feels very juvenile.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their practice, right?
But this was a meme. This was like a viral...
Oh, I haven't seen it.
This was like a viral trend in the underground dark web that most kids were doing. It's like Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. It's like that, but no, this is like a modernized version of that. So, I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting aspect of modern witchcraft that I had experienced over the past couple of years that I've witnessed online.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, that's an extreme example because it's kind of dark, but I think, that's part of the progression of being a modern witch. And I'll use a simpler example. I had shared a spell in a witch group, and I said, get a lighter. And someone's like, you should only use a match because a match is a natural product, blah, blah, blah. And my response to that was, if our ancestors had an easier way to do it, I think they would choose the lighter. Right? That's part of progressing into the modern world, right?
People are so petty.
Well, but if you want to use a match, use one.
Right.
I'm using a lighter.
Right.
It doesn't taint my spell because all my ducks are in a row when I'm doing my spell work. If you want to use a match, go ahead. But I don't think that I think if our ancestors that were practicing said, wow, there's this thing that makes fire and I just have to click a button, I'm using that shit.
Magic!
I'm using that.
I mean, not all modern technology is bad. I guess I could understand. I want it to be natural. It's like, if that's your path, then take it, you know.
And if I have matches at the time, I use matches. But it's whatever I have in the moment, because sometimes it just hits me that I need to do something. And I grab whatever is there in front of me. Other times I plan it out. And it is more nature-based and more natural. But let's face it, we are living in a modern society. Ain't nobody got time for 2-hour rituals. Ain't nobody got time for that.
And my matches.
I guess at the end of the day, practice how you want to practice. Just be mindful about it. Don't hurt anyone.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in, don't mess with anyone's free will.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a lot of that happening.
Oh, that's a big one.
On Valentine's Day. Does anybody have a love spell?
The love spells.
It's yes, I have a love spell. You need to start loving yourself.
What a disheartening thing to learn in my teen years. 14 to 16 years old, I'm walking around Salem with my girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, love spells. We're going to get boys to fall in love with us. And every spell you would go look at, it's like, well, this isn't about... And as young and naive, you think you're going to get a boy to fall in love with you. And you read the instructions. It's like, oh, this is not about manipulating a man into thinking I'm great. This is about loving myself and letting my true attributes shine. And, it makes sense now that I'm an adult. And I'm like, obviously, you don't want to be with someone that's forced into... Well,
exactly.
And karmatically, it's just bad news.
And if you have to manipulate someone to love you, they're not your person.
They're not your person.
They're not.
And it's not going to end the way you want. It's going to be bad. It's just like binding spells. I like binding spells, but there's very specific nuances there that I think people need to pay attention to. I like the rule of 3. Whatever. I forget the rhyme. There's like a rule of 3, something you back to me. It has to do to do with your own energy and your own karma. And if they have bad karma, you want it to find them threefold.
Well, the rule of 3 is a Wiccan tenet. So that's a religious rule, which I don't believe in that.
We'll have to have a whole episode about Wicca and witchcraft. Because even I get confused about... I tend to tell people I'm more into the witchcraft than the Wicca because I hear Wicca is more...
Well, Wicca is
religious.
A religion.
Yeah, there's actually a registered...
So you can be Wiccan and a witch.
Yeah.
You do not have to be Wiccan to be a witch.
Okay. Right.
So Wicca is religion.
Mm-hmm.
Witchcraft is spirituality.
Right.
So you don't have to practice Wicca
Right.
to be a witch.
That's why I've always just I use the word witchcraft more.
Yeah.
Every once in a while someone drops the word Wicca.
Well, witchcraft is witchcraft.
Yeah,
It
right.
has nothing to do with any religion
It's
at
like
all.
when I was getting the pentacle tattoo or the pentagram, and I had to be like, wait, there's a difference.
There is a difference.
And I'm like, oh man, I got to really look into it, and I did, and I can still, I have a tattooed on my body.
But it is a protection symbol. It's not evil.
No, I know this.
People think,
Well,
but people think it's evil because of Hollywood again.
Well, then Satanists actually flip it upside down.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. A girlfriend pointed that out to me because I had a pentacle in my room, and she's like, do you know that yours is upside down? I'm like, doesn't matter. She's like, it might to some people. And she gracefully explained to me that satanic people will flip it upside down. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't necessarily want a satanic pentagram on my ankle.
Yeah. But if you're not thinking that's what it is,
exactly.
that's not what it's going to be.
Fortunately, I got it right
intention.
side up. I got it right. But
it's not always about intention, but
right.
in some cases it may be.
I'm happy to say that I knew what I was doing when I got it on there, but I've forgotten already exactly if I have a pentacle or pentagram. One has a circle around it, one doesn't.
Right.
And one is like a little more spiritually earth-based, and the other one is actually Christ-based. It used to be represent Christ on the cross.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of like that because of my Christian roots. So to me, I was like, oh, that actually is great. My mom can go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
She's not a big fan of the tattoos, but I'm like, no, it's derivative of Christianity. It's great, Mom.
It's funny when talking about your mom. When I came out to her, when I came out of the broom closet and I told her what I was doing, because now I think she's Catholic, okay?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, so what does that mean?
Mm.
She's like, you're not killing animals, are you? That was the first thing she said. And I was like, Mom.
All the sacrificial stuff
I'm
people
like,
think
no,
of.
Mom, I rescue dogs. Why would you do that?
Only just sacrifice them in my backyard.
Right. I'm like, Mom, have you noticed I have 5 dogs in my house, and a cat at the time? But yeah, so, I told her what I did and how it relates to me and the here and now, and she was totally fine with it.
Yeah, it's like anything else once you explain it.
Yeah, so, but it's wild, the misconception that a lot of people have about it. And I think maybe it's not so terrible now that it is more online.
Right.
In our modern world. But I think it's maybe more accepting.
Yeah, I think so. No, totally. I think, honestly, the pop culture moment of Harry Potter, the pop culture moment of Hocus Pocus, it's always been ingrained in our society. America's history runs deep with this stuff. That I think we say there's a stigma, but I don't know if there is one so much anymore. Same with marijuana. There was a stigma of marijuana.
Yeah.
But then when it became more and more accessible and people started educating themselves about the medicinal qualities, and all of a sudden now the stigma isn't there so much anymore. People like me who have this rebellious nature that want to be part of the stigma, that wants to be part of the underdog, get kind of jaded after a while. It's like, oh, it's not cool anymore. Oh, now I'm not living on the fringe or the edge.
You were cool before it was cool.
Now I gotta go be conservative. And
Don't change, Kate. Don't change.
I'm always trying to be ahead of it's just something about me. I'm always like, yeah, that's too trendy now. Now it's too trendy. I got to do the trend before it gets trendy.
Right.
And then tell everybody they're lame.
But don't change. You're wonderful the way you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think cell phones too have changed a lot of witchcraft. We can do so much. Just like there's social media, right, and the internet, but then there's the phone, there's the camera, there's that little. It's almost like a wand. It's almost like you're. So I feel like Captain Kirk from Star Trek. That's what this is like now.
If you look too, when you don't have your, when it's just your screen not open.
Look at our screens are like moons and.
But this is like a mirror, right?
Yeah.
This is a portal.
Right. Yeah, it feels like that.
So anyone.
It's like a scrying thing.
But anyone can penetrate this.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about modern witchcraft, right? I have a protection symbol on my phone.
There you go. Well, I was going to say sigils and stuff like that. There's probably an app for that now.
Oh, I'm sure.
An app to make
sure
a sigil, an app for tarot readings, an app for angel cards.
Yeah. So
it's cool.
it is cool because again, I think the ancestors would be like, that's so cool, like, because we're not drawing stuff in the ground, in the dirt, and even though that primal aspect of it is cool too, you know, like you go out in the woods with your besties and you're dancing around a fire under the moon, like that's cool too, but, and it's primal and it's raw and it's, you know, you can't get much more connected to nature than that. But at the same token, like, I love the modern world because when I'm having a crappy day, all I have to do is text Kate and she's like, yep, let's meet.
Yep.
And, you know, here we are.
Or we do like all day phone voicemails all day back and forth, which is so much fun.
Well, I do videos.
I don't.
Kate does just the voice.
Sometimes I don't have my teeth in.
Well, and she's like, I can never do the videos right.
I also have really slow bandwidth at my house, so the audio gets pushed through better. But
so we have these short little. Well, hers are long because you can talk and talk and talk. I have to do like 30-second video clips. And it's pretty...
Yeah, mine usually average 2 to 3 minutes.
It's pretty hysterical because I'll send her like 12 videos in a row that are like 30 seconds each.
I get your facial expressions though, which I love.
Which I'm very... If anyone that knows me, I'm a storyteller, so I'm very animated when I tell my stories. Because it makes it funnier.
And every once in a while I get the pleasure of her using a filter. So my husband actually pointed something out when I was talking about technology. He's like, yeah, we actually can, we all have telepathy now. That's how he put it. He's like, we can all read each other's minds instantly. He's like, I'm at work, I sit down, boom, you tell me to get eggs and milk. You know, through a text, you know, boom, you tell me. It's just He's like, it's like you're sending me a mental, we're able to now telepathically communicate. Obviously that's not what we're doing, but I could see why we're doing that with people all over the world, not just your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, this is like, we have so much global awareness of each other.
Absolutely.
That's why we're seeing the possibility of World War III, right? Because everybody sees each other suffering. Everybody's calling each other out and like, no, you're the bad guy and you're the bad guy. But we're all actually the bad guy.
Right.
And we're all actually the victim.
Yes.
It's just we're all on different timelines.
Yes.
And it's because we're so conscious of each other on the entire planet now, whereas before we got our news and our information about such awful and great things through a newspaper or a magazine.
Well, you know, Alaska is ahead of us by a few hours. Why don't they just tell us what's happening?
It's too dark. They can't type. They can't see what they're doing.
But yeah, you know, speaking of like globally, so like I have a coven. Mm-hmm. It's all online at this point.
Yeah, right.
There are a few of us that live close together. But we do quarterly meetings, Google Meet.
It's a great plug for you, yeah.
Right?
It's I'm in it.
Yeah.
What's the name of it? Is that Earth Spirit Coven?
Earth Spirit Coven.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's just women that are in the coven, and we meet quarterly.
If somebody wanted to be in the coven, how do they get to be a part of
They
the
go
coven?
to mysticmarketnh.com and they sign up. There's different levels, and depending on what level membership you choose is what you get every month.
You know what I like about you too is you're not like, you're very you're not judgmental. Like you're saying, there's no quote gatekeeping. There's no piety involved with you. You're very not very intimidating. You know, not at all.
I try not to be.
Well, I think some people,
except sometimes I mean.
I think some people get intimidated because they feel like there's some kind of commitment or there's some kind of sacrifice that they're going to have to make.
Right.
But no, or they have to have some like deep knowledge before they join. Right. And it's like not with you. I feel like there's
and I think I run my coven modernly. Because when I first started it, there were a couple women that joined. They were calling me high priestess, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, don't call me that." I was not comfortable with that title.
That's a lot, yeah.
Even though I am the leader,
right.
the founder, I did not want that title.
Yeah. Because
to me, being called a high priestess means I'm above you.
Yeah, there's like a hierarchy.
And I don't want a hierarchy.
Yeah.
I'm the same as you.
Right.
You're the same as me. You know,
we can probably
Tom, Dick, and Harry, they're all the same.
Right.
Like I want level, I'm not above anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning too.
Mm-hmm.
I will always be learning in this.
You're walking alongside us, not in front of us.
Exactly. So I was not comfortable with being called high priestess. So I
Plus
said
there's
that.
so many attachments to that, like so many expectations and
I said, "Oh no, I'm not anyone's high
You
priestess."
can invoke the high priestess, but like
Yeah.
proclaiming it as a title might
But
be
that's a title that covens use.
Yes, I know.
So, but I don't want that hierarchy. We are all equal. We are all one. We are all connected.
Well, see, because I went to I told you about this temple I went to in Western. I'm not going to say it because, I didn't like a lot of things about it, but there was a lot of things I did like about it. It was more of a positive experience than a bad one, I have to say. But I would have to force myself to go because it was an actual temple, an actual school, and women did go there to learn how to be a high priestess. That was that was the end game, and because of that, it was taken very seriously.
Oh yes,
it's a beautiful setting, so I had a lot of respect for it. But once again, I was very intimidated by the status of some of the women in the room. There was a vibe of hierarchy, and I wasn't necessarily drawn to that part, and I kind of had an aversion to it.
And I understand those things, I guess, have their place, but for me, it's not my vibe.
Didn't have any relevance.
It's not my vibe. Like, I created this coven to bring a circle of like-minded people together that all wanted the same thing. Life is too frickin' serious, right? To now bring that seriousness into something that I wanted to create a relaxed vibe. Like, this is a place we can come.
Like a sanctuary.
Like it's still sacred, and we treat it as it's sacred. But you feel comfortable coming in, and you feel vulnerable, but you're okay with it because all the women in this circle are all being vulnerable.
And you said some are from different countries, right?
I have people, there's some from Australia.
So they probably have a cool perspective. They probably have different plants that they use,
do,
different seasons that they attune to.
And I just started this year recording the coven meeting. So because there are people on the other side of the world never can make it,
right?
Because it's like 2 a.m. for them. When I'm doing it at 7 p.m. at night. So I started recording our gatherings, and we start all the gatherings by lighting a spirit candle. We say a little mantra. We do a meditation.
So I gotta come to one. This is online, right? And is it a
online,
Zoom?
Yeah. It's Google Meet.
Google Meet, and so can people choose to have their image on screen, or can they just have like a...
They can choose it on or off. Most people leave it on.
Yeah. And they're usually sitting there and they light a candle as well?
And I do small rituals that I invite people that they can do it along with me, or they can just watch, because I will be doing it anyways. 9 out of 10 times they're doing it too.
Cool.
Which is cool. But we do a meditation. We go into the ritual. The whole thing lasts an hour.
Yeah.
At the end, I always close the ritual with a prayer, with a Sanskrit prayer. And then we have like 15 minutes open discussion. So people can either talk about what they felt during ritual, or the struggles that they've had, or whatever. And it's all confidential, obviously. Nothing leaves that space. And I tell everyone up front that it is recorded, so everybody knows. It gets posted in the private group on the website, mysticmarketnh.com. And when I'm talking and doing the meditation portion of it and the ritual portion of it, I do make everyone turn their mics off, because sometimes I'll ask people to repeat what I'm saying. And if you've ever been in a meeting with 12 different people, there's a lot of feedback, and depending on how fast your internet speed is, there's lag, so I make everyone turn their microphones off during the meditation and during the ritual part of it, and then the last 15 minutes they turn it on and we talk. I've been doing that since 2019, I guess. 2019, end of the year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so but this year I just started recording them so people could, but we talk about like any new business that's coming up with the coven, or events that are happening locally. Because now that I have a physical location, I can offer...
you utilized the coven for a protection spell for me when that kooky lady was giving me guff.
We did. We gathered up some of the ladies, and we did a collaborative ritual.
I think it worked.
I think so,
I haven't
too.
seen her since.
I think she's at the bottom of my freezer still. Maybe that's why. Good old freezer spell.
I'm not going to tell everybody what you told me to do today.
If you're an elder, you know. Come on. You know exactly what's happening. That's another episode.
Yeah, we'll save that one. It'll be a fun day. Well, yeah, modern witchcraft. I think, obviously we honed right in on the online internet stuff, cell phones. That is probably the biggest influence. Yeah, and then the lockdowns, the forced isolation of people. Obviously, they're going to go straight to their phones. They're going to go straight to their...
Well, people were losing their ever-loving minds.
I thought, I was having a hard time with the lockdowns, but I also was so pleased with humanity and seeing how beautiful people were and looking into each person's home and seeing how they would use their technology to reach out or to just create and express themselves. And I, as much as I don't like people, I also fell in love with people all over again. Like seeing their individualism. Yeah. Like all the comedy that people were doing, like just real creative, funny things that like, you don't need to go to a comedy show. Like you can just go on TikTok and find
scrolling for hours.
Oh my Lord. And it just made me feel good about people. I was like, it's much, we're all so cynical. Yeah. But like people really, I would like to think people are more often good than bad. People are more often talented than not.
Oh yeah.
And it now though, as a musician and artist, I feel very overwhelmed with the saturation of talent where you feel like you don't even want to start. Yeah. Because why would you? Because you scroll, there's a 15-year-old banging out Led Zeppelin like it's nothing. And I'm over here like squeaking out folk songs. It's like, oh, okay. But it almost gives you like a God complex because you could just like check in and see every little human on the planet.
Yeah. Right.
You're the ultimate observer.
And you know what? That whole time with lockdown too, I discovered like new things. Like people were, like music, right?
Right.
People were tuning into music and sharing it where they weren't before.
Right. But they're too busy out at the bar playing or playing a show or playing here or playing there.
Some of it was kind of an intimate, like I felt like I had my own private show sometimes with art, especially like, and Garish, I love him. He was doing a lot of things like healing mantras and stuff too, and I felt, and I girl fan over him all the time. And I just love his voice and his songs, and I resonate a lot with the vibe that he gives because it keeps me calm. So I felt like I was getting my own private concert. I'm like, he's playing for me.
He was though.
He was in a sense. He was.
Of course he was. He would tell you.
But in my mind, it was just me. Nobody, not the other 83 million people that were logging in at the same time. But modern witchcraft has its place, I think.
It's cool to see how far it's gone, and now I'm gonna sit back and see how far it's gonna go.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep going, and
gonna have holograms of us pretty soon.
I mean, probably. More than likely.
Maybe we already have that, and I just don't know about it.
I'm not even real. This is just... I'm actually on planet Pluto right now. Astral projecting. Here at Mystic Marketplace, Milford, New Hampshire. MysticMarketNewHampshire.com. Most listened to podcast of Pluto. I think we should go now before I keep rambling.
Well... This is our second podcast. Look at us go. All right. So check us out online, mysticmarketnh.com and prayersofnature.com in Milford, New Hampshire, in Wilton, New Hampshire. Connect with us on social media.
Oh, yeah. We're on social media. We have a lot of fun with social media.
Yeah,
you have more fun than I do.
We're on Facebook, TikTok,
Instagram.
I was doing X for a while. I'm all set with that.
Yeah. I can only manage like 3.
Yeah, so like my top 3 too: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So that's where you can find me.
People have an opportunity, and I don't know, maybe I should ask you this after the show, but do people have an opportunity to comment on these on these podcasts, like when we post
Sure, because
So-
I'm gonna post them on YouTube as a video.
Okay, great. So YouTube too. So if you guys have
Yeah.
anything in the comments that you want to share about what
Yep.
modern witchcraft means to you, or any experience, we would love to hear about it.
Absolutely.
Because you'll be using modern technology to talk about modern witchcraft.
Right. And well, Kate brought up a good point. Now, if you have any topics you
Yeah.
are interested in hearing about,
Any guests you suggest or art?
yeah, and we are going to have guest speakers on. So if you want to be a guest speaker, reach out to one of us, and we'll see what we can do to get you on one of our shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Take care, everyone. Until next time, live, love, and magic.
What she said.